knowledge is really important, but I think it's important to value different types of knowledge. And that's kind of what, again, going back to my research interests and expertise and how they view problems, how they create knowledge about problems, how they understand, for example, traditionally poverty was often understood as GDP, you know, and how much the wealth of a country, and yet now we're historically that was the way sort of poverty was measured and evaluated, and now we're starting to think of more creative ways of looking at poverty and how we understand and how we measure what qualifies as poverty. Now they think about individuals' income. Is it $1 a day or $2 a day? I think that what's really crucial in engaging with the problems surrounding poverty is valuing other types of knowledge, valuing people's knowledge of themselves and of their own communities. I think is really, really important. I think I'm actually more concerned about wealth, and I'm more concerned about privilege, and I see poverty as manifestations of wealth and privilege, and I think that I learned from my mentors to reframe the focus and to not focus on poverty, but focus on wealth, and see how these processes are linked, how processes of accumulation of wealth are directly linked to processes of dispossession and how people become poor. And so I think that I'm, you know, out of a general sense of concern for other people, and then also from recognizing my own position, recognizes the places where I've had privilege, and to see how that has manifested in certain outcomes in my life, how I've had, you know, whether it be a supportive family or things like that have enabled me to get to the places in my life that I've wanted to go. America's a big place, and I hesitate to make broad, overarching statements. You know, other people have studied and described it, you know, the racial characteristics of poverty in America and wealth. We have problems with poverty in America, and we have problems with wealth. There's a reason why, you know, stuff like the Occupy movement exists. People are frustrated with seeing how concentration of wealth is increasing. That's particularly Rob Wright this morning on Amy Goodman's show was speaking about his latest book, I think it's called Outrage, and this concern about these extremes being pulled apart of poverty is increasing, unemployment's increasing, and the concentration of wealth is in fewer and fewer hands. And I think that I'm concerned. I'm concerned about, we see it right here at UC Berkeley. We see the problems of we're, you know, times are tight. We feel strapped here. I can only imagine how that affects people when they're strapped in a much more personal sense. We're strapped in a professional sense. Reich said this morning on Democracy Now!, he said that democracy is a process, and it's a constant process. You have to always be engaged, and it's not something that you do and you leave alone. It requires sort of a regular engagement. Hopefully this will inspire that. It will inspire people to get engaged in their communities, in the larger structures, in the ways that they feel empowered. So I think this issue of engagement is something that really sort of sits heavy on my mind. You know, when people see suffering, they're not happy about it. I think that the way, and going back to what Robert Reich said this morning, actually, I think a way forward, maybe let's use the term sustainable way forward, is for people to sort of inculcate a habit of, or a sort of commitment to engagement, and a certain type of engagement, a reflective, self-critical engagement, and start helping people to learn to see things in broader perspectives, to step out of their own sort of disciplinary standpoint, their own way of viewing the world, and to sort of learn to listen to other ways of viewing the world, and to sort of hear and listen in a meaningful way, not just this sort of token, yeah, I listened to that, now we're going to move forward with this, but it's like, you know, to think about, to recognize that voices from other places that maybe aren't always heard are really important. So. I wish people read more. And I would love to see space made, and that the value of time spent reading, and that's I wish we didn't have such budget cuts to deal with, would be the other thing. And I wish that as a you know, I don't want to say as a society, maybe I should say as a state, because that's where this is manifesting, that we value education the way I think it should be, and to think about how they're representing people, and how to be able to represent is also to take a position of power, and so to think critically about that, and what are the ethical challenges around that, and what are ways in which we sort of are exposed to, and what sort of images are we exposed to, and how the images we create transfer through society in ways that we don't necessarily know or expect, you know.